It's Trial Tuesday, and local attorney David Aylor joins us now with legal plans for when a loved one's health takes a turn for the worse. David, good to have you with us this morning.
Glad to be here as always, Laura.
We're so happy to have you. So we do have a really good question from Daniel from Somerville, and he says, my dad's health has unexpectedly taken a turn for the worse. He is not coherent enough to understand what is happening, and he hasn't updated his will in 20 years. What do we do about his estate and other questions we may have? Daniel has a great question there because many of us might have to deal with that same issue.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Daniel, the fact that his father's art is not coherent is going to be the issue that makes it a little bit tougher for him. He's going to have to get a conservatorship, a guardianship over his father's estate. And the way that he could avoid that, or another person could avoid that in a similar situation, is ahead of time getting, either the will updated while the parent is still coherent, maybe prior to, if they know, the condition is worsening, but their mental state is still completely clear. And that is one thing that is very important, that has to be 100% completely clear mental stability as far as all their mental faculties when they're meeting with an attorney and, redoing their will, or maybe just doing a will for the first time. Beyond that, related to his estate, a power of an attorney would make a big difference in regards to his bank accounts, bills, anything like that that he would need to get access to of his parents. And unfortunately, like people like Daniel get in the situations where so many of us find ourselves, where you're doing it sort of after the fact as opposed to before. So I can't encourage enough sitting down with your elderly parents, elderly friends, making sure that they have these things in place ahead of time so you can avoid so much headache that it takes to actually get that conservatorship or guardianship after the fact, once they already, actually end up going down.
Yeah, well, the next question might be, maybe not for people like Daniel, but oftentimes people just get hurt in accidents, car accidents, things like that. And unfortunately, it was something that was unforeseen. So now they're injured and they can't help themselves. When do you say that maybe somebody should be updating their will? Every year? I mean, just to be proactive? Or?
Well, I mean, it's something to look at least, every couple of years. I think realistically in the world we live in, people are pretty busy all the time and they're not going to look at it every year. It'd be great if they did. Yeah. Maybe if they put it on their calendar, a lot of people do it that way. But at least, relatively speaking, every couple of years, particularly the older you get, whether you're having children, people get married, divorced, various things like that happen. And you'd be surprised how many people don't change their will from, getting married or getting divorced or having children and various things like that that occur, and yet their will's still outdated from years back before any of those circumstances were the way they are.
Is it a complete dead end for Daniel now, though, seeing as though his father can't change anything, he's saying? So
no, he could still go through court and get conservatorship of his father's estate based upon the fact that his father's incoherent and ill, and hopefully if his father regains consciousness and is back to his full mental capacity, he can then resign from that position and his father will take back over his own estate, and if not, he'll just stay under that role.
All right. Unfortunately, some people out there, David, don't have wills to begin with. That's something that you cannot overstate enough that you have to have one.
Absolutely. You can go online and get them. A lot of people do that. They save money that way. The only problem with that, sometimes you may have certain laws in each state that conflict with the way that will's written. So I would suggest you can get a will done relatively cheap by sitting down with an attorney, going over what your goals are and what your options are, and then having that will on file for yourself and for your family.
Wonderful. Well, he's David Aylor. We really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, coming up, we've got some more coming up from John.
School is out, children are home, and it could become a